Swadika, good morning and thank you for joining us on Newsline for Friday, January the 10th of 2014. I'm Thira Kosan. In today's top stories, the U.S. has offered a $700,000 fund to renovate the flood-ravaged Wat Chai Watanaram in Ayutthaya province. And in our business segment, consumer confidence index in December dropped to 73.4 points from 75 points in November. Taking a look now at today's headlines. His Majesty the King visited the Sirina Rachini Mangrove Ecological System Learning Center in Pramburi district of Prachuap Khiri Khan province. The center is part of a reforestation project covering 1 million rai of land launched in celebration of the 50th anniversary of His Majesty the King's accession to the throne in 2002. When the project was presented to His Majesty in that year, His Majesty asked officials concerned to make sure that people would benefit from the reforestation project. Following royal advice, government units concerned and the private sector joined hands to develop the project area into a learning center for mangrove forests. During His Majesty's visit to the center, His Majesty traveled along the 600-meter-long study trek to observe how much mangrove trees, including the one that His Majesty grew 11 years ago, had grown. An evaluation of the center showed that these mangrove forests are able to absorb 700 tons of carbon dioxide per year and at the same time release 5,100 tons of oxygen per year. His Majesty also visited an exhibition zone displaying native fishing tools and information about shrimp farms developed on deteriorated land areas. His Majesty also stopped at a pier to release 9 giant mud crabs. The Learning Center represented an integrated effort among government units, people, schools, and temples, which have jointly managed the center until it achieves a concrete success in promoting public awareness in natural conservation for the community's common interests. Before His Majesty's return to Klaikangwon Palace, His Majesty the King gave moral support to officials working on the project and asked them to continue protecting watershed areas and mangrove forests as habitats for animals. The Prime Minister has called on demonstrators not to damage or destroy public and private property during the Bangkok shutdown on January 13th. Ms. Yingluck Shinawatra expressed her concerns over the People's Democratic Reform Committee, or PDRC's, planned shutdown on January 13th that may affect the nation's economy and financial institutions. She said she hoped the demonstrators' intent on toppling her government would not destroy public and private property or take control of any government office. When asked whether or not it was time the army chose what was right rather than remaining neutral, the Prime Minister responded by urging all to follow His Majesty the King's speech that everyone should perform their duties to their best. In regards to whether the Premier would be, where it would be on the January 13th shutdown date, she said she would later disclose the exact location. Transport Minister Chachat Sitipan has announced that the Ministry of Transport will be providing updates on the transportation situation in Bangkok through the website worldwideweb.mot.go.th and through the hotline 1356 during the period of the PDRC's attempt to paralyze Bangkok. Mr. Chachat also expressed his belief that transportation in Bangkok will not become paralyzed by the PDRC's actions because the subway trains, SkyTrain, boats, and normal trains will still function normally. As for motorists, the Ministry of Transport has arranged 36 parking areas in the suburbs of Bangkok so drivers can be able to park and then use public transportation to get into the city. There will be around 17,000 parking spots. The State Railway of Thailand will be operating extra trains to carry commuters in and out of Bangkok on January 13th, the day the People's Democratic Reform Committee, or PDRC, will attempt to grind Bangkok to a halt. The extra trains will run at 15-minute intervals starting on Monday, and Sprinter trains will also be making 3 additional stops to pick up passengers. The Department of Special Investigation is seeking court approval for arrest warrants to apprehend 35 core leaders of the People's Democratic Reform Committee. DSI executives said the decision to seek 2 more arrest warrants for PDRC leaders was made after witnesses came forward to indict them. Earlier, the DSI collaborated with the Office of the Attorney General and the National Police Office to seek arrest warrants for 33 leaders. The DSI said that so far, PDRC leaders have refused to show up to acknowledge the charges against them, as required without proper reasons. The group continues to commit crimes which include the planned siege of Bangkok next Monday. The PDRC legal team has meanwhile launched an appeal to withdraw the warrants and to request another hearing on the issue. PDRC members currently wanted by the DSI include Sathit Wongnongtoi and Withya Kao Paradai. A recent survey suggests that most children in Thailand have grown wary of politics due to the current turmoil, while hoping that all sides would come together and talk. Ahead of the annual Children's Day this January 11th, the Suandusit poll has disclosed results from the latest survey conducted on 1,337 children nationwide during January 6th until the 8th. According to the findings, 61.5% of the kids viewed politics as a tiring subject and a cause for endless arguments. Another 19% said political problems were holding the country back and weighing the people down. When asked about possible solutions to the political impasse, as many as 42% of the children suggest that all factions resort to talks and be united. Another 21% wanted harsher penalties for wrongdoers, while 16% called for politicians to learn to compromise and forgive one another. Although they wish that political figures would act as role models for them, a huge majority of 89% confirmed they had no interest in entering politics when they grew up. Only 11% set out to become good politicians in order to serve the country. On the occasion of the 180th anniversary of the Thai-U.S. diplomatic relations this year, the U.S. has offered a $700,000 fund to renovate the flood-ravaged Wat Chai Watanaram in Ayutthaya province. At the National Museum in Bangkok, a press conference was held on the presentation of a fund worth $700,000 or 23 million baht by the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation, which is under the supervision of the U.S. Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Presiding over the conference was Director General of the Fine Arts Department, Anek Sihamat, together with the U.S. Ambassador to Thailand, Christy Kenny, and conservationist Jeff Allen from the World Monuments Fund. The grant is aimed at supporting the restoration of Wat Chai Watanaram in Ayutthaya, which is one of the many historical sites in Thailand devastated by the floods in 2011. According to Mr. Anek, the first phase of the restoration has been successfully carried out, and this amount will be used to run the second phase. He said he was honored to receive the fund on behalf of Thailand, saying it was part of the celebrations for the 180th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. He added that the fundraising program for the ancient temple's rehabilitation was initiated by Mrs. Kenny in 2011 when floods were wreaking havoc across Thailand. The U.S. ambassador said she was glad to be able to lend a hand in returning the beauty to Wat Chai Watanaram and preserving the Thai culture. Thailand has once again won the snow sculpture competition in China, making it the 5th consecutive year for the win for this country. Secretary General of the Office of Vocational Education Commission, Mr. Chayapruk Serirak, happily announced that Thailand has won for the